I really don't know what to think about the Milwaukee Bucks this season going into the playoffs. They have only 9 games left before the playoffs, and they've officially been eliminated from the number 1 overall seed in the Western Conference as they're 11 games back of the Boston Celtics. And this team has just been very confusing all year. They lost again last night to the New Orleans Pelicans, who are not a bad basketball team, but this game, if you look at the statistics by and large, this was a terrible game for the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis had 35 points and 14 rebounds, but something that was concerning for him was that he shot 5 for 11 from the free throw line, which is 45.5%. And obviously, as a guy that is going to be in the game in late situations, you need to be able to hit free throws as a superstar player. You don't want to have Giannis looking like prime Shaq out there, who is dominant in the paint and dominant as an offensive player and on the boards, but cannot shoot free throws to save his life. And then you have a guy in Damian Lillard who they traded for and gave up a lot for this past offseason right before the season started, and there were questions about whether or not Damian Lillard could really integrate himself into this roster and whether he could really be the next step for this Milwaukee Bucks team to overcome what they went through last year when, after Giannis went down, they lost 4-1 in the first round as the number 1 seed to the 8 seed Miami Heat. And Dame, in this game, he had a good game. He had 20 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds on 50% shooting and 50% from 3. He had a good game, and he's had good stats all season. And he's leading the team in assists, as we knew he would, but he's averaging 24.5 points and 7.1 assists. But if you look at his efficiencies this season, they have not been on par with what we've seen out of Dame in years past. He's only shooting 42.5% from the field and is shooting 35.7% from 3, which is right around league average. But Dame has always been a guy that has shot well above league average for most of his career and is known as that guy who's going to take over in the clutch and in big-time situations. And while we've seen that at certain points throughout the season, we've also seen points where him and Giannis do not look like they're on the same page and cannot figure out how to get a rhythm on offense. And he also has been a detriment on defense as well, as the Milwaukee Bucks have gone from a top 5 defensive team last year with Giannis and Jrue Holiday to a team that is right now 14th in defensive rating. And at one point, they were all the way down at 21st in the league in defensive rating. And that is crazy for a team that was built based on their defense and inside scoring with Giannis Antetokounmpo. And that has been the staple of these Milwaukee Bucks teams that have made deep playoff runs and actually won a championship only a few short years ago. And for them to be a kind of middling team in terms of defense and defensive rating, that is very concerning for this team, because if you look at the impact that Damian Lillard has had versus the impact that Jrue Holiday had throughout the past few seasons, I honestly have to say that Jrue Holiday might have had a bigger impact on this Bucks team than what what Damian Lillard did, as his defense made up a lot, and he was the best guard defender in the league, in my opinion, even though Marcus Smart did win a Defensive Player of the Year award. And then you go to a guy in Chris Middleton, who has come back from injury as of recently, and you can't expect him to be perfect yet. But in this game last night against the New Orleans Pelicans, he had a stinker of a game. He shot 3 for 12, and that's 25%. He was 1 for 7 from the 3-point line, so 6 of his 9 misses were from 3-point range, and he had 7 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. And if you look at the rebounds and assists, you might think that's a good game, but shooting 3 for 12 with 7 points is awful for the third guy on this team. And then even guys like Brook Lopez, they just haven't stepped up in certain games. And obviously this game against the Pelicans is only one example of that. But this organization and this team has not been the same as what they've been in years past. And I think it is the defense that is really coming back to bite them late in games, because sure, they can score, but if Dame and Giannis are not hitting shots, this team cannot defend in the clutch. And in the playoffs, that is a key necessity to be able to guard in clutch situations. And in all honesty, this team is a shadow of its former self in terms of defense and defensive efficiency with Damian Lillard in the lineup compared to Jrue Holiday in past years. And Chris Middleton has not looked like the same player the past 2 seasons because he's been riddled with injuries. And while that's not his fault, it just is the circumstances that the Bucks find themselves in. And it's a sad situation for them to be in because, like I said before, in 2021, they won a championship and have been contenders ever since. And last season, they were the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. And even this year, they're the number 2 seed. But I don't see a lot of people talking about the Milwaukee Bucks as real championship contenders because of, first of all, the lead that Boston has in the Eastern Conference, but also just because of their lack of consistency in games that they should be winning and even close games against good teams. So it's going to be interesting to see how down the stretch they can try to fix these problems that they have that we thought would be taken care of by the All-Star break or even before, but still have not been taken care of. And obviously, Doc Rivers is a problem as well because you have a coach in Adrian Griffith to begin the season that they get from the Toronto Raptors, and I believe was an excellent coach, but ended up on the wrong side of management and ended up being fired, and Doc Rivers was brought in. And ever since Doc Rivers has been brought in, this team has been more of a middling team. Like, for example, in their last 5 games, they are 5-5, and they've lost back-to-back games now. And while that doesn't tell all, I think it is concerning that Doc Rivers is a coach that has won a championship in 2008, but has blown multiple 3-2 and 3-1 leads throughout his career. And then you also have a team that last year went out as a number 1 seed to the number 8 seed in the first round of the playoffs in the Miami Heat. And while the Miami Heat did go on to make a finals appearance, that could have been easily avoided if the Milwaukee Bucks had played up to their level that we know that they can play at. So we'll have to see where they're at going into the playoffs and how the chemistry between Dame, Giannis, and Chris Middleton can really gel and click. And we'll have to see if this team can get back to anywhere close to where they were at before in terms of defense and offensive efficiency. The Bucks are a team that I could see going either way in the playoffs. Either they'll go back to last year where they're an early round exit, either first or second round exit, to a much lesser team that doesn't have the same talent as them, or they could easily make a conference final or even NBA final appearance this year if they can somehow knock off the Boston Celtics in most likely the conference final. But this is a team that I could see easily losing to the Cleveland Cavaliers in a second round series at some point in the playoffs, and that's not a good thing if you're a Milwaukee Bucks fan because the Cleveland Cavaliers have been inconsistent in and of themselves, and the fact that I think it's a even matchup at some degree is very concerning for this team. So let me know what you think in the comments section below. Let me know if you think that this Milwaukee Bucks team is good enough to make a deep playoff run and win a championship, or if they're going to be an early round exit again like they were last year. Anyways, God bless you all. I hope you have an amazing day. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so I can hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of April, which is coming up fast. I hope you have a great day and make sure to subscribe.